Welcome to another episode of the UUR, a Severance podcast. I am Kali Thomas, and I am here with my co-host, Rodnesha Green, in person.
In the building.
In the building. We're in the same room. Look at that.
They said it never happened.
Did they?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what people say out there.
Well, we had a plug to Rodnesha Green, inspired photos by Rodnesha Green. She is also a photographer. She may have mentioned that once or twice. So she just did a birthday. I think you've mentioned at where it relates to like, well, yes, I know exactly when you mentioned it. Okay. Because remember season 1, we were trying to decide or figure out where the photos Milchek was taking, and we were talking about angles.
That's right. And then I was like, I should have known that. I'm a photographer. You're right.
It came up then. But anyway, moral of the story is we're together because Rodnesha just did a birthday photo shoot for my babies. They're turning 2.
Turning 2. And they're so freaking cute. So fracking cute. I can't stand it. But also very fast and don't want to sit still. And that's 2-year-olds for you.
We gotta work out chasing them too.
Yeah, we had to change your shirts. These weren't the original shirts we had on today.
Oh no. Those
shirts are sweaty and in the waist, not the waist bin, but the laundry bin.
Hamper. Whatever.
Whatever you call it. But that's not why we're here today. That's not what we're here for.
We are here to discuss, I was going to say we're here to discuss part 2 of Escape at Dannemora, but we are not. We are here for part 2 of the UUR Escapes Dannemora.
That's right. You did have that.
Escape at Dannemora, parts 5 through 7, which is really 7.
Part 1, part 2.
There's 8 episodes total. We don't know why episode 8 was not part 8, but if you listen to part 1 already, then we've already hashed this out. So we don't need to go there again.
We've made our gripes. We've made it clear. Ben, don't do that again. Don't bring that to Severance.
What is that numbering system?
Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
But anyway, Rodnesha, I believe you have done some digging, some research based on the real stuff.
Here's the question for you.
Uh-huh.
Do we want this now or later? And here's why I ask. The articles that I wanted to pull up have to do with the real life people and where they are now and what they're up to and what has happened since the events of the Clinton Correctional Facility escape.
Okay.
So I was like, we could talk about it now because whatever, if you're listening to this, you've either watched the show or you don't care.
You don't care about Yeah, that's true. You don't care about
You're just here to support, which we appreciate. Well, or if you want if you want it to be a little in sequence, we can save it for later.
Ooh, I hate to go out of order, so why don't we save it?
Okay.
Then? Let's get into.
There's some interesting stuff, so we'll come back to it.
Yeah, and I mean, when we recorded the part 1, I hadn't looked anything up. I said I was going to look stuff up. I haven't looked anything
That's all right, because I did. So, because I got to know the whole story, not just the parts we see in the docudrama. So yeah, let's just go ahead and move into cast details.
Yeah.
You want me to grab that?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
We're skipping around. All right, guys. So here's the deal. Before I list it off, there's a lot of freaking people in this series.
Yes.
Too many, some might say.
Yes.
And it's not even that there's too many people. It's that there's too many people that fit the main cast billing.
Right.
And we already told you guys in part 1 how we left out the co-stars because there were just so many. So even with just main cast and guest stars, this series is such that there's a lot of guest stars.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys watched the series, then you'll know that episode 6 alone has a whole entirely different cast.
Rodnesha, I have a related but a little tangent.
Cool.
When you are talking about billing and pay as an actor, what is the difference between a guest star role and a co-star role?
It usually comes down to line count.
Okay.
A co-star under 5 is kind of the baseline minimum. A co-star role will start at 5 lines or less.
Okay.
So that could be the person that comes in and says, "Here's your order, Mr. Jones."
Okay.
Or they can get up to 5 of those. "Here's your order, Mr. Jones. Thank you for coming to Starbucks. Blah, 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 line 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever."
Yeah.
So that's usually the minimum. There are co-stars that can have more than 5, but I don't recall off the top of my head where a guest star begins and a co-star ends, but typically a co-star may only appear in 1 or 2 scenes, have a few lines in each scene. Guest stars get whole chunks.
Maybe have a little storyline in there.
Exactly,
okay.
Exactly. They're a little more integral of a part to the narrative.
Okay, so I was wondering if there was a distinction like that, or if it was like, oh, Ben's such a nice guy, he just made a bunch of people guest stars and they got paid more.
Now, he could, but I do think according to like SAG and Writers Guild, they do have to fall within the guidelines that qualify it.
Got it.
But that doesn't mean favors aren't being done, because I did notice that there are a few people who are playing themselves or playing a role that is them.
People that we
have seen before,
right?
That.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But also that could mean like in recording and shoot, you had more lines, but it didn't make it into the show, but you still get paid as a guest star. You still get guest star billing.
That is also true. Yes. So it all has to do with scripting and what is shot on the day. What makes it to final cut is neither here nor there. You will get paid for the work you did, not the work that makes it through.
Yeah.
So yes, if you were booked as a guest star, you will be paid as a guest star accordingly, which is nice. And that's why we have unions, to ensure that those things are regulated. Yay, unions.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you for explaining that to me, because I was like, why are there so many guest stars? Okay.
Now, why? I can't explain why there's so many. Ben just said, everybody come have a part. You can do this and you can do this. It's so many. So all this to say, this was all to build up to the fact that what I am going to do, rather than read off the full cast list, we're just going to know that our mains are our mains. I'm just going to add in any new people to the cast who have joined since episode 4 that are main cast and guest stars.
Okay.
Cool?
Sounds
if you
good.
don't remember those names, it's fine. You won't remember these names probably. But we just want to acknowledge the work that was done.
Yes.
So, joining our cast in our main starring cast roles, Skip Sutta as the prison superintendent Steve Reset. And I put that there because in one episode he's just the prison superintendent, and then
they give him a name. Yes.
But all one thing. Michael Imarioli as Governor Andrew Cuomo, Jim Parak as Kevin Tarsla, Richie Allen as William Rickerson, Charlie Hoffmeyer as Kenny Burrill Sr., and these are people, the last 3 I've read are exclusively to episode 6, but that's why they get star billing or main cast billing. Our guest stars that have joined us, Enzo Celucci, I'm going to say, as Vic. He's also in episode 6. Leo James Davis as Kenny Burrill Jr., Amber Gray as Annie, Charles Guest as Major Charles Guest. See, this is another one of the things. Obviously, just get in here and do something. Eric Jensen as Aryan Brotherhood inmate. Quote, as Eric Jensen. So I guess I wouldn't want to be known as Eric Jensen, the Aryan Brotherhood, man, but that's how it's billed.
Is he a real former inmate then, maybe?
Oh, that would be interesting. Do some research, guys, because I didn't. But maybe. Mike Spears as Correction Officer Lumpy, Jeffrey Schechter as Spencer Friedman, David Neal Levin as George Armistead, Robert Neary as Corrections Officer LaGrosse, don't remember how I said it, Michael Kincaid as Detective Phil Osley, and Alyssa A. Harkness as Tilly's Correction Officer. Written again by Brett Johnson and Michael Tolkien, directed by Ben Stiller. And I also want to give a shout out, even though she technically falls in co-star, for Nikki M. James, who we know in the Severance world as Alexa.
Yep.
Our favorite ex-girlfriend. She is in here as one of the ER doctors.
Yes. So, I'm glad you brought that up, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, see, people just be reusing people. You got to book a job. You do a good job, you make an impression, and then you do it again. So I have always had this running thing about, I just need Rodnesha to like get in there with Shonda. She has been on a Shonda Land show.
I have. We did that. That was manifested.
Right.
That
and
did
so
come through.
We have noticed across Shonda's career where there's like, okay, you get a co-star, and then on her next series, they're like, oh, they were guest star. And then boom, they're a main cast in a third series.
There's so many people that started off.
You got that first step.
And then she went to Netflix.
Then she went to Netflix, but that doesn't mean she can't remember you.
You're right.
I mean,
we'll see. Now, part of it is that my butt needs to get my butt in gear, but that's neither here nor there. But that one leg of it did happen. Another one that I'm trying to get into fruition is Abbott Elementary.
But what I was gonna say is, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Throw your girl an audition.
It seems like you like to bring in people you like. I hope I could be one of those people. I could be one of those people. I'm chill.
think so. I mean,
I do the work.
Can you imagine if you had even just a co-star spot.
Honestly.
On Severance.
Honestly.
And then we would have to like be quiet about it.
Here's the thing. This is a slight, and we would. And that's, if that is a hindrance, then we won't talk about it.
We will not talk about it.
Okay, I will zip the lip. But this is a thing that I've missed the boat on so many of my favorite shows that I would love to be a part of. I wanted to be on The Office. I got here right as The Office was wrapping up, and I was like, God, I'm never going to get that chance. And then Parks and Rec was another one that I was like, oh, I would love to be on Parks and Rec. And that was about to roll out too, and I didn't quite get into the co-star rhythm of things before that could happen. So I'm like, I'm always just missing my favorite shows. I just want to be a part of the show. So again, getting on to, I would have loved to have gotten on Grey's, but Station 19 was the Shonda show I got, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm officially billed as part of the Grey's Anatomy universe because
you are.
The episodes that I did happen to be
they were crossover
episodes.
Ones.
So a win is a win. A win is a win. I'll take it. So yeah, so if I can just get on one of these shows that I love while it's still happening, it'd be great. Ben, I'm willing to travel. I'll pay for it.
Right.
If I got a co-star role on Severance, I don't care. I'll pay for it.
Get there.
Just to say I was there. And I've already put in my bid as the Lumen janitor.
Oh, yes.
I've got the jumpsuit.
Look, you don't even have to worry about
You don't have to dress me no wardrobe. That's
Look.
Money off your bill. I come prepared. I'll bring a broom and some bleach because I know them walls is getting
She
bleached.
already has a badge too.
I have done backstory. Okay, I'm just saying.
Right. What an Easter egg for listeners and fans of the show if that actually happened.
Let's just say, yeah, when it does. Woo! All right, guys, let's talk Dannemora.
Okay, Dannemora. Should we get into the summary for episode 5?
I think
episode 5, titled Part 5. Okay. Okay, so this episode opens with Sweat running through the maze of his own creation, and he's timing how long it takes for him to get from his cell all the way out to the manhole that is just outside of the prison walls. He takes a moment to poke his head out, and he breathes some free air, and then, confusingly, he drops back in, right? And so we get a time marker. We now know it's June 5th. And Tilly and Lyle make their way to the donut shop on the way to work, despite already running late. And once they're at work, Tilly makes Lyle even later, because she's just ridiculous, by having him run her sweatshirt back out to the car because it's too hot.
It's menopause.
I'm flashing. But Tilly gets hers later, though, because the substitute tailor shop CO that is there chews her out for dressing inappropriately for work. Because under that, she just had a spaghetti strap. And then them
tatas was tataan.
They be banging. Okay. Inmate Matt then tells Tilly that tonight is the night. Like, Sweat's tested it. We're doing this.
Going down.
So meanwhile, Murder is finally let out of the box, and his presence threatens to ruin the whole plan before they can even get back to their cells. And we come to a very high tension confrontation in the cafeteria between the members of the Aryan Brotherhood and Murder's crew. But before anything pops off, where they're able to calm it down, and nothing happens yet. So that afternoon, C.O. Palmer comes to Matt's cell to make amends with some hooch that he has brought in his flask before he clocks out for the weekend. So we know that, like, okay, there's a shift change. The familiars are not the people who are there on the weekend. And Sweat comes by and sees that Matt is up and talking, and he reminds him, like, get some rest. It's an important night, bro. Get some rest. So after work, Tilly and Lyle head out of town to a special Friday night dinner, and they go pretty far out, like they're driving for a ways. And back at the prison, Sweat tells Matt that he thinks they should skip yard that day to avoid any potential confrontation with Murder, but Matt is big-headed. He doesn't listen. He's like, I'm not frightened, no, blah, blah, blah. And luckily, though, they are saved because the confrontation that started that morning in the cafeteria bleeds over onto the yard, literally, and they end up having all the guards come in, tear gas is thrown, everyone's got to lay down, hands in their head, it's a whole thing, right? And so Sweat worries about a potential lockdown because this would mean that there's more COs present during the night shift and through the weekend, and there's no way they would be able to go through with their plan. But luckily, the warden doesn't want to pay, or the superintendent, or I don't remember which one. Whoever is above, superintendent
didn't want
to approve overtime pay for a lockdown, so he didn't approve it. So after everyone who was in the fight is taken to the box, presumably, and everyone else is escorted back to their cells for the night. And then we make our way to the restaurant with Tilly and Lyle, and they're waiting for their food. And Lyle gets up to go to the restroom, and Tilly knows it's time for her step one. And she opens that paper with the sleeping pill that Matt gave her previous episode that we discussed is just, you don't know what that is.
Anonymous pills.
She is mulling it over, and you can tell that she is getting like increasingly more and more nervous about this. And she, at the end of it, she just can't bring herself to actually dose Lyle's drink. So when Lyle comes back, their food arrives. He's scarfing it down, and Tilly starts crying and hyperventilating, and it's so dramatic. And she says she's having a heart attack, but then she won't let Lyle call 911. She's like, you gotta get me to the hospital. He runs to go pay the bill and then drives her to the hospital. And at the hospital, they think it's just a panic attack, but they decide to keep her overnight for observation. And she convinces Lyle to go home and not stay with her. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you're a good man, Lyle. And so during all of this hospital mayhem, Sweat and Matt actually make their way out of the prison. They actually get through. And Tilly is not there waiting in her, I forget what kind of truck she has, but she's not waiting. They were looking for it across the street. And Matt starts freaking out. Sweat is the one that's able to keep his head in all of the rapid decision making that they need to do. Mm-hmm. And after some hemming and hawing and a near conflict with a neighboring citizen, Sweat convinces Matt that they should head to the mountains and lay low for a bit, and then they can walk right into Canada. So that is episode 5.
They finally break out.
Yes.
Escape happens, but going back up to the top. So we already kind of indicated, but I was like, yes, this is the episode I was thinking of where we get the tracking shot with the running.
Mm-hmm. So good.
And so it is very good. I timed it because I was like, does he eventually tell him like how long it took to get down there, or was he just doing it for his own personal reference?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to say it, and I don't think he ever actually says it.
He didn't. But for the record, it was 35 seconds. Because I was like, is there a reason why they want to get this entire run in like one single tracking shot,
right?
Or if it's just for us to feel the intensity of like the run itself,
right?
I'm guessing it's the latter because no mention of time. But I was like, it might be one of those cool things where it's like, you know how in Severance the time lines up between the elevator getting on and off, and if you go and look through each scene, it's like, they all at the appropriate time are getting on and off the elevator. So I wasn't sure if it was one of those where like later on we'll realize, the amount of time they shot it was the same amount of time they needed to get out for whatever timing purposes. But
no, nothing like that.
No. But it was cool to see, and it is interesting to see how they have smoothed it out.
Yeah.
Between that and the one we see in Severance episode, season 2, episode 1.
I was going to say, while I was watching him time it, I was like, well, 2 things. One, Matt is not going to be able to keep up this pace at all. Even if he was as fit as Sweat, he just hasn't been down there doing the work that Sweat has been doing. Absolutely. So Sweat just has it memorized, right? And Matt, even just by having to run behind him and rely on him for where to go, is going to automatically be slower and slow you down.
The conditioning itself.
Yeah. But then also, when he opened the hatch, I was like, just go. I was like, just go now. Don't that guy. He didn't help you with this at all. Okay, he got you the hacksaws.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know that is enough work because you were hammering and picking it. He got through so much.
Yep.
And Matt was maybe down there once or twice. And this comes back up again later on. And I was so glad that it did because I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Same.
But yeah, those were my thoughts during this opening scene.
I felt the same way. And there was something really neat about seeing him get above ground and like getting the air of like being on the outside of the prison. And there was like an ephemeral thing that happened where it's like it almost feels like you are catching that breath of air.
Yeah.
Just knowing that he's been down underground, not just in the prison walls, which I'm sure have their own like air to them, but being down underground, going through the sewer pipes, doing all the stuff, and then to finally come up and like breathe fresh, free air. It's like, oh, I did take that breath with him. But I had the same thought of like, you could just go. And then I thought, oh, well, he doesn't have all his things. I was like, but he still probably could go back, get his things without anyone noticing.
Same night and without anyone noticing.
Absolutely. And if it were me, I would have done it. Yeah. Because he has done, like you said, nothing to this point. He hasn't helped with none of the digging, none of the drilling. Sweat's been the ones that came up with the ideas of like how to get through the pipe and setting up a ventilation system, all that stuff. I would have been like, I don't need this dude. I can just go. Right. But clearly that did not occur to him. So, whatever, I guess. Yeah. I'm trying to think through any of the other moments in this scene. One of the ones that we talked, so we've talked in the first 4 episodes about how there's just it feels like a lot of unnecessary filler. Yeah, a little bit. Not to get too, down about the storytelling, but there do seem to be like scenes and moments where it's like, did we need that? The donut shop. Yeah, I kept waiting for being like, okay, she has a little back and forth with, it's the redhead one. Is that? I think that's Lambert. I think. No. Lambert is Lyle's friend. Oh, the one that's in the shop. Is that what they call, is that Lumpy? Lumpy might be. Because I don't think they ever, in the first episodes, I don't remember a name for him. They always give him a nickname that has to do with him having red hair. He's the redheaded one. Yeah. So he's the one. Yeah. Okay. So I kept waiting for there to be like some kind of tension building there. Like, oh, I know what you're up to, or you're going to get yours, or something like that. I thought there was definitely going to be something that happened in that scene that comes back later. I'm like, either they're going to have a confrontation where that comes back to bite her in the butt because he sees something she's doing. Right. Or something. Because she was just unnecessarily rude to him. And then that was the scene. And then she was rude to the cashier. And then she got back in the car and they left. The other reason I thought maybe they stopped was I was like, oh, does she need to get something out of the convenience store for them? And she's telling Lyle she wants a donut, but really she's like getting stuff to I thought that too. And she didn't get anything else. She just got a donut. So I'm like, that scene could have been cut. She got Lyle a donut that he didn't ask for because they were already running late. It was like, here, I got you that. And I was going to say, that could have been a touching moment where it's like, actually, I am thinking about you. I got you a donut. But she threw it at him. She's such a so that didn't even have a storytelling purpose. So that scene, honestly, could have chuck it in the bin. We didn't need it. Yeah. I'm like, I haven't counted all the unnecessary scenes, but that one definitely stood out to me where I was like, why did we keep this? Right. I don't think we needed this for any reason. Right. Narratively, that makes sense. So that was another thing. Everything else up to that point was pretty much like, we're just getting to the release. We're getting to the pump. Now, I will say all the stuff with murder and the yard, I was like, that gave me a little anxiety. Yeah, I was just like, that gave me a lot of anxiety. As soon as you heard he was going to be out the same day they were going to try to get out, I was like, yeah. Right. And they alluded to it being a problem in the previous episode. And then he was like, he called him out immediately. He was like, you and I have a date on the yard, sir. Yep. Get down here. Come the F on. And the man from the Aryan Brotherhood just was like, you gonna let him talk to you like that? We got your back. So here's a question for you. Do you think that Ricky was constructing this to go down the way it did? Because I kept trying to figure out, is he aware? Because when they have the conversation in the cafeteria and the Aryan Brotherhood dude gets all riled up and then he's all like, tomorrow, we're gonna do it tomorrow. I couldn't tell if that was just him trying to stave off till tomorrow and get everybody to want to do it tomorrow so that they don't come after him that day because he's gonna be gone. Right. Or if he just knew that was going to stoke the fire more. Yeah, I thought that. I was like, is he saying tomorrow to save face when it comes back with Sweat? Because the longer it went on, the more I thought he's doing this on purpose so he has an excuse to not actually go through with the escape. Oh. So he's not a chicken. It's out of my hands. Like, it just lockdown happened. I thought he was trying to instigate the lockdown. Interesting. I thought I wasn't sure if he was trying to instigate the lockdown necessarily so much as construe events so that the fight happens with everyone but him. Yeah. So that they have a way to like get those people out of the way and clear the path for them to do the escape. You know what? That's what I mean. So the longer it went on, because I was thinking that before I knew that,
oh wait, but that can result in a lockdown, and then a lockdown that means they can't
that
go.
was the thing I don't think they knew was going to happen, or maybe he knew was going to happen. If he was trying to get out of it, then that would make sense.
Well, they were nervous because they thought a lockdown would happen, so I think that is typical protocol, which makes me think he was doing it for that end, right? He was doing it on purpose, but then it was like, oh, superintendent is cheapo, so we still got to do this. Yeah.
There were a lot of scenes where I was like, I couldn't tell, does he want to leave or not? He seems very kind of like blasé. I mean, not that you want to be overexcited because you don't want to draw attention, but I just couldn't tell how much was purposeful in like the moves he was making, knowing that they were trying to get out that night, and how much was just his very blasé attitude about everything, really.
Right. And I think it's like, in hindsight, the more we learn in the next 3 episodes, is like, this man just winging everything. He don't know. He don't actually have a plan. He doesn't actually have any wisdom based on his experience. He's just full of...
He's literally in the wind.
Doo-doo. Yes.
In the wind. Wherever it takes me is where I go. I can't live life like that. Oh, it was so frustrating. And then again, to see the inverse of Sweat, who's literally being meticulous and methodical and thoughtful of every step. And then you've got this dude who's just like, we'll make it, push through, power through. It's like, okay, sir, easy for you to say all that because you're not doing any of it. I'm doing all of it. I'm powering through. I'm figuring it out. And you keep undermining me. Oh.
Yeah, I forget what episode it was, but while Sweat was still working on forging their path, at one point, Matt was like, oh, you're just tired. He's like, yeah, I'm tired.
I've been out every night. What have you been doing?
I'm getting no sleep. I'm like sundown to sunup. Lights out to lights up.
I think that's why I would have ditched him, because it's like, I have done outside of coming up with it myself and getting the materials.
Right.
I have done every other step of this plan, and you've done nothing.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that I was good and ready for when the escape needed to happen for Ricky Matt to get stuck in the pipe, because he hasn't done it
for
at all. And
when Sweat first cut that hole in the pipe, I was like, he's not gonna fit through there.
And he got stuck, didn't he? There was a point, or maybe it was that he was running out of oxygen. But like he had to go backwards because it was like, oh, this is tight. Yeah. I'm running out of air. And even though they came up with the ventilation system, that doesn't negate how much room is in that pipe. And I was like, and he's not small, but like he's tall, but he's a lanky dude.
Yeah.
And Ricky Matt is not missing no meals, is all I'm saying.
Right, which again, if he had actually been a planner, would have at the very least been like trying to slim down prior.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think that's why when they talk later about going back, he's like, I'm not going back in that pipe.
Yeah,
he was like, I can't go backwards. I already, it was enough to get forwards. So yeah. So the note, I had a note about the note that Matt left in his cell. Was that supposed to be for Palmer, or just for whoever finds his stuff?
I forgot.
Did you read it?
I forgot about it.
I didn't read it the first time, but I read it. I left what it said on there. It said, you left me no choice but to grow old and die here. I had to do something 6/5/15. I assume that's the date when they left.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't figure out, was that note to Palmer? And if it was to Palmer, how does he have any sway in, like, it was the whole you left me no choice part. Because it's not like Palmer had any way to get him out or help him get out. So I just didn't know who that note was for.
I don't know. Just him being extra for no reason,
yeah, you're right. He's dramatic.
I guess.
You're right. Because I was like, I don't know if this was just a general note to the prison. Like, you left me no choice.
Yeah.
System.
I mean, sounds like something he would do.
It does. You're right. The more I think about it, it's like, that does just seem like a dramatic, like Shakespearean something that artist Ricky Matt would do as this is my letter to the people. I had to do something. I couldn't.
Ridiculous.
So I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts about that. I was like, is that supposed to be for Palmer? Or
no, I actually missed that. I'm glad you put that on there.
Yeah. So who knows? Because nobody gathered the note later. You didn't see.
You don't see any like evidence collection. Yeah,
exactly. And all that did was tell on when y'all disappeared. So I'm like, what if maybe, which is doubtful, what if they didn't realize when you guys went missing?
Right.
Y'all could have maybe had a day or two before anybody was like, wait, where's Palmer and Matt been? They ain't in classes, they ain't in da-da-da. But now you've given them the exact.
Right. It defeats the purpose of waiting until Friday, too, for the weekend and the less guards and everything, where they're like, okay, well, now that they can calculate how long or where, it helps them calibrate their search to know about when you left.
Mm-hmm. So dumb. No surprise, Ricky Matt is dumb. And we already talked about it in the credits.
Nikki M. James,
Yes,
yeah.
this is the episode where we see her.
But then also, Tilly. I didn't see her. No, Amy Stiller has a cameo.
Yes,
Where?
Amy Stiller is the ER nurse.
Oh,
she's the one that gives her the drugs. And she does have a cameo later on, I think in episode 6, as one of like the people with Sweat's crew, because I saw her name pop up there as like a co-star in something there.
That's so funny.
And I was like, Ben's just saying, sis, get in here.
Come here.
You got nothing to do. I need an extra person. So yeah, so those are the 2 cameo, and they're not cameos, but cameos for us because we know who they are.
Right.
appearing in this as well. That's all I have for this one.
Yeah.
Other than, again, dumb moves being made ever since they got on the other side of that pipe and getting into someone's yard. I just...
Oh yeah. That was the last thing. And so the rub that happens once they're out is he starts tweaking like he just starts running into people's like backyards and trash cans and what it's like, what are you talking about? Right. And so somebody comes out with, as small towns do. I'm pretty sure he was armed and was like, "Get out! What are you doing?" Right? They were almost caught right outside the wall.
I thought for certain that man was going to run in and call the police, and you were going to see whoop whoop.
And Sweat's just like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Got to chill.
And so he was just like, "Let's just steal a car and hotwire it." And she's like, "No, you dummy. Let's go into the woods. Well, we got to go to Mexico. We'll go into the woods.
Forget Mexico.
Lay low. When things die down, we'll get to Canada. It's blah, 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 blah." And I also got the sense that this wasn't, Sweat definitely demonstrated that he is smart enough to think of that plan on the fly, but I don't even think it was on the fly. I think he already had a backup plan.
I'm sure he already thought through contingencies. I think he started thinking through contingencies the moment he found out that Ricky brought Tilly in on everything. Because it's like, what if she... And he kept asking that question, too. Like, how is she doing? What did she say?
Right, especially the day of.
I think he was like,
should I talk to her?
How in is she?
Nervous? Yeah.
And I think he could tell in that moment that he was like, I don't know if we can count on her. So let me start thinking through what ifs. If he hadn't already been thinking of them, definitely at that moment,
right,
was likely like, okay, I noticed this around here, these houses, it was pretty quiet when I came out in the middle of the night. If we were stealthy enough and he's thinking he has a backup plan for his plan and then probably another backup plan for that backup plan. So thank God one of them did.
Which is weird to say because we don't want
that's
them
the other thing
succeed, right? We're not rooting for them.
I'll get into more of that.
I was like, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll hold it.
We'll hold it. But yes, that is true. All right. Are we ready for part 6?
Episode 6.
Part 6. Part 6. A wild departure from everything else.
Yes.
Episode is its own thing.
Yes.
All right. We open on a sheriff sitting in his patrol car at night using his radar gun to monitor traffic. He receives an APB about a burglary and some suspects and drives off. Through a montage, we see him perform various tasks during his night patrol. He pulls over a swerving car, which turns out to be a nervous teen driving in the middle of the night with her dad on her birthday. That was a weird thing. Anyway, it must have been true, but whatever. He's clearing some debris from the road. He's picking up supplies for a barbecue. He ends up stopping back by his own house, and we see him have a very tender moment checking in on his wife. Later, while back on patrol, he spots a suspicious scene in a parking lot, and we see a truck and a car with 3 to 4 men loitering between them. The sheriff cuts his lights off to approach undetected, and he then flips them back on as he gets closer to the cars. He steps out and announces himself, saying, "Police!" But the men scramble into their vehicles. One of them stays behind and opens fire on the sheriff, hitting him before he has a chance to draw his weapon. As the sheriff falls, the shooter jumps into the car, truck peels out, but the car backs up to run the sheriff over and then run him back, and then he stops. And then once the man gets out, we see that it is David Sweat. It's revealed this is early in the morning of July 4th, 2002. Sweat looks down at the barely alive sheriff, but he is still alive, and says, "Sorry." Then one of the other men gets out of their car, realizes that he's still alive, takes the gun, and gives the final fatal shot to the head. And that is David Sweat's backstory. And then we move on to a next flashback that's further into December 3rd, 1997, or further back, to December 3rd, 1997. We see an elderly man is at home when he hears a knock. It's Richard Matt. The man tells him to come back by the shop tomorrow, but Matt insists that he needs to come in now. He wants to apologize while he still has the courage to do so. As soon as the man opens the door, Matt bum rushes him, sucker punches him in the face, and is talking wild. Convinced the man has a safe with $10,000, Matt demands that he opens it and gives it to him. The man insists that there is no safe, but Matt doesn't believe him and pushes him down the stairs into the basement. We cut to Matt in a car with a younger man who is driving and smoking crack.
He's smoking a lot of crack throughout this, just by the way.
The elderly man is tied up in the trunk. They stop periodically to check on him so Matt can question him further, torture him some, find out where this 10 grand is, but they get no answers. The man's just pleading for them to let him live. Close the trunk back up. Later, they stop at a liquor store and Matt steals a bunch of random stuff, duct tape, a pinwheel, dumb, slinky, a porn magazine, nonsense stuff. They continue on to a strip club, picking up women and doing more drugs, while the man remains locked in the trunk. Matt even shows the trunk to the women, who aren't horrified but mildly intrigued, then head back inside. It seemed like they were a little familiar with
the craziness. Yeah, they were like, oh, no one said not again, but it was almost like, not again.
Exactly. Yeah, that vibe. So they keep driving, and Matt eventually seems to accept that the $10,000 may have just been a rumor. But now he says they can't let the man go, so Matt duct tapes his entire face, mouth, and nose, and essentially suffocates him in the duct tape. They drive to a waterfront, and when they open the trunk, they seem to be shocked by the fact that this man is dead, with no mouth hole or nose holes. Who would have thunk? So then they drag his body to a bonfire pit and hide him under the logs. Later, after watching a movie with a random girl, he gets freaked out because they're watching a movie where a dumped body ends up floating to the surface. He decides he's going to make sure that this body ain't found, so Matt returns to where they left the body. He takes it, saws it into bits. That's where we got that name, hacksaw. And chucks it all into the water. So gross. And then he drives off, and that is the end of Ricky Matt's backstory. Finally, we shift the story perspective to our third main character, Tilly. It is now August 14th, 1993, and she's outside of her house getting her car jump-started by a man named Jerome. Her son, Kenny Jr., and his father, Kenny, come out. Kenny puts their son in Jerome's car to go to daycare while he and Tilly head off to work together at a shoe factory. At her sewing machine, Tilly's coworker mentions her husband is going to start working at Dannemora, so this is the first mention we get of that. We also learn that Lyle works, quote, at the factory, and he and Tilly are having an affair. So this is where it starts.
Familiar.
The co-worker warns Tilly that she's slowing down the production line and that this could cost them their jobs. They already lost one factory in the town, but Tilly does not care. She wants to get her rocks off. That's all she's worried about. So jump forward to lunchtime, and she and Lyle are having sex in the bushes across the street where everybody's just eating outside and having a good time. It's weird and gross. It's so easy to see them. They didn't even conceal themselves very well.
It's like literally the opening in the shrubbery, not even hidden a little.
Not even at all. The same coworker who was talking to Tilly sees them getting it on in the bush and then later tells Kenny about the affair. Good for her. Kenny and Tilly have a huge argument in the factory parking lot, and Kenny drives off, leaving her behind. Later at a diner, Lyle is talking with Tilly, and she's doing her white woman tears. And she then pressures him to leave his wife and become Kenny Jr.'s new father. And she paints Kenny as this potentially violent and angry man and plants this idea into Lyle's mind of needing to do something to ensure that she gets full custody, as she should rightly get. The next day, Lyle follows Kenny into the factory bathroom. This part was so weird, and provokes him into a physical altercation. We'll talk about what happened there. We then see Tilly, Lyle, and Kenny Jr. in a truck. They pull into a motel where Tilly picks up custody paperwork that Kenny has signed. Back in the car, she tells her son that he's not Junior anymore. He's just Kenny, and his dad didn't want him, and that Lyle is his father now. And that is the end of that. And boy, oh boy, did that anger me.
I was like, this is out of order.
We'll get to it.
We'll come back to it. So, okay, sweat story.
Sweats.
So, first of all, the beginning part, I understand. They maybe wanted us, I don't know, maybe they wanted us to feel attached to the sheriff who eventually gets killed.
Mm-hmm.
But I condensed it down here. My original notes, right, for that were very detailed because I don't know where it's going. So I'm just writing notes as I'm watching, right? And then I start to type it out and I was like, you don't need every single stop that he had. Every single stop in the night. We could have had, okay, one or two things to see that he's on patrol. I do like he makes a stop at some point to pick up ketchup and mustard, and he has a call on the phone with his wife. So that's where I was like, oh, this must not be right after the escape, because it sounds like they're talking about 4th of July. They're talking about like a barbecue and having people over for the next one. I was like, what is it? I wonder if it's just a birthday or if it's 4th of July, but I thought it was June 5th. And they don't reveal the time that we jumped back in time until much later. So I was a little confused on the timing, but I like that. Okay, there's something a little personal. He's a family man. He's getting ready. And then he kind of, it's a slow night. So he sneaks off to go check in on his wife. And then he goes back on patrol. Okay, I don't think we needed every stop. We didn't need every single stop. I guess the first stop with the him pulling over the car with it's the teenager who's just got her learner's permit driving on her birthday. I think that was a good little suspenseful moment because we weren't sure of the time. It was like, oh, did they end up stealing a car? Is this them? Or do they get caught this early? But then you see that it's not. But then after he makes the debris stop to clear stuff from the road, why did we need that? Just to show that it's a slow patrol night. But we got that with him sitting in his car. Yeah. He's waiting for somebody to go by speeding and there's no one. So it's a slow night. We get it. It was too long. It went on a bit too long for me.
I feel like, number one, my running thought and theory is that this episode is the whole justification for this being episodic and not just a straightforward movie or film. Because I think they needed a reason to do this whole expanded backstory to be like, this is why they are who they are. And like, which I know. But because it was such a standalone episode, we could have gotten all these little flashbacks in different ways, but I think they wanted to have this like fleshed out, like these are the people they were.
But this is the least telling backstory of the three, because the bulk of the backstory is spent on the person who gets killed and not Sweat.
True.
We don't know what led Sweat to that point that night.
I think that's part of the problem is that I feel like I wonder if this is maybe based on like court documents and transcripts that detailed like this officer that justified, like, I don't know if some of these details came out in court and it was like, this is why Sweat got so heavily charged, because this man, he was a family man and he was just a nice guy doing his job, blah, blah. That's what it felt like to me. I was like, this feels like the kind of stuff that you find out in court.
I think they could have had, a parallel story of like, this is what the cop is doing, and this is what Sweat is doing, and then this is what they mean.
Actually, that would have been much more interesting. And I think that was part of the problem. I don't know if they had enough Sweat backstory, which is weird because I know Ben Stiller talked to that guy.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to see a convergence of lives rather than just one person.
Right, because we don't know what they were doing in the parking lot. We don't know what he was doing before the parking lot.
Right.
We don't know anything that happened immediately after, which you could argue is not important to the backstory, but I think a little bit after maybe, because we do see what happens a little bit after for Matt later on. And so I was like, the only important thing I gathered from this for Sweat was just that, okay, we can see his argument about while he's not a cop killer, he was there. He's not the one who pulled the trigger, or he wasn't the one who was driving. We don't know that for sure, though. We just know he gets out of the car and is like, I'm sorry. So
here's, okay, we'll come back to that because I have some technicality issues with Sweat. But all that to say, I like the version you pitched better because that would have been more interesting to see. And I think the writers not taking that POV, they needed a way to fill out Sweat's story so it could balance out with the other three. Honestly, outside of Tilly's story, I feel like all of them could have been condensed. Like, Matt's story was very a lot of yada, nothing, yada, yada.
Yes.
Same with Sweat. Tilly's the only one that had like a bit of a thread that you're following as it kind of unwinds.
Yeah.
And I feel like they just needed the other stories to be fattened out to match. But otherwise, they could have easily been backstories in another thing or been shortened by, if that's all you're going to cover, by that degree, they could have been shortened quite a bit.
Yeah, especially, Sweat specifically too, again, since we don't get really any backstory from Sweat. Sweat's could have been a flashback when he was on the phone with his mom in like episode 2 saying they call, you know what they call me? They call me a cop killer. Flashback watching his friend shoot the cop and not him. And then that's it. Because that's the only information we have anyway.
Or just the moments leading up to it could have been like, do you remember there was a scene? Because I remember it was where I thought he was going to get jumped when he got sent to the lower level and they just pan in on him trying to like zone out and he's just laying in bed.
Yeah, it could have been that's what he was thinking of. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities where they could have put that in a normal episodic, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, here's my gripe.
Okay.
I watched it again this time specifically because I was like, I can't remember when I watched through the first time because I was so loosely taking things in. What happened? I remember it was him that was out of the car standing over the cop, but I couldn't remember if he was the one that actually shot him or if somebody else did. I was like, let me watch it again and specifically see what happens. So him saying that he's not a cop killer, technically true, but he did shoot that cop. A lot.
He's the one who did
the first set of shootings. Yes.
Oh,
because I watched very meticulously. I was like, I don't. He's the one driving the car because they show the silhouette of the body and you see his clothes and what he's wearing.
Okay.
You don't see his face, and I was like, all right, let me make sure I remember what he's wearing. And then you see him get in the car after everybody disperses, comes back out, pop, 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 sees that he's still living, gets back in the car, skirts.
So technicality, you did the fatal shot.
You weren't the cop
guy.
Killer, but you certainly weren't the cop make him live because you.
But you were going to drive off, and he would have died right there because he didn't even have a chance to radio it in.
Exactly. I think he just felt bad once he realized, like, dang, I shot this dude up. I ran him over. He's still alive.
Sorry.
And I think that was the only reason why he hesitated. And then the friend was the one who did the final blow. But like,
it was almost like not a sorry that I did this to you, but sorry that you didn't die faster.
You should have died. Why are you still alive? Now I got to feel bad about it. So that was my gripe. I was like, while technically true and legally you would not have been the cop killer, you still shot him like a bunch of times.
No. Legally, yes, because he was there and he's an accomplice. The other people in the car that didn't do anything probably also got murdered too.
Yeah, they did. Well, we'll talk about it later. But but all that to say, I was like, okay, I don't like that you are hanging on this technicality, especially later. Him and Matt talk about their crimes.
It's whatever they gotta do.
I guess. I was like, you're making it seem like you were an innocent bystander and all these events happened and you just happened to be there. No, homie, you shot him.
So this is
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
And then they escaped in 2015. So I was like, I feel like 13 years, Sweat, is enough for you as a lifer to come around to some kind of acceptance because you're going to be here.
Right.
I feel like that's typically what you see with the people who deny that crime. If they're not getting out anyway, why put up that fight? For what? For who?
Exactly. Who are you really trying to prove this to?
Yeah, right.
Because again, would he be dead if you had shot him however many times it was? It was a lot. It was more than 5.
Yeah,
maybe
he shot him a ton of times.
A lot of times.
It was like police. They didn't even attempt to make any excuse for what they were doing or try to get out of whatever was happening.
And the funny thing is, Homeboy didn't come out with a gun, surprisingly.
Yeah, small town mistake, I guess.
Yeah, but he announced himself in the light, held up his hand, and then they said, pop, 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 pop. I was just like, crap. So anyway, that was my little gripe. I was like, sir, I need you to accept that you wholeheartedly tried to kill this man. You didn't succeed, but you definitely you sure as tried. You ran the man over twice.
Right. Yeah. See, I didn't see that he was the one driving either.
Yeah. So that I just was like, let's be clear. Let's be clear on the details, sir.
Yeah. Man's would have died even without those last few shots.
If y'all had taken off without, he certainly you would have been the killer then because he would have died from all the wounds and internal bleeding.
Absolutely, he would. Ooh, yeah.
All right. Moving on. I just was like, oh, that upsets me because I like you. I shouldn't like you, like we said earlier, because you are a criminal and a murderer.
Yes.
But also, don't pee in my face and tell me it's raining. Like,
right. Okay. Matt's backstory. So he worked for this man at his shop. He got fired for some reason, and then was like, "I'm gonna steal all your money." Does not try to confront him at the shop where it would make sense that there's any money. We have no idea where this rumor of the 10 grand
Sure
in
does.
his house in a safe came. But I was like, you worked for this man. You are not covering your face or anything at all.
You announced yourself.
You would now, yeah. What are you doing? So I was like, from the beginning, I was like, oh, this man about to die. Oh, this is who he kills. He knows he can't leave this situation, whether he gets what he wants or not out of it, without that man identifying him.
Yep.
And then I also was like, oh, he didn't just drink. This man's on drugs. Like, he was tweaking out the whole time already. And then we get to the car and confirm that that man lights a pipe. And I was like, oh yeah, they are high. Yeah. High out of
Which
their mind.
Again, it explains the irrationality within the home, the way he came in, like guns blazing.
Eyes are darty.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So you're tweaked out and you've got this rumor swirling in your mind that you don't even know is true.
Yeah.
And just again, I understood everybody needed a backstory, but honestly, outside of finding out why they call him Hacksaw, I was like, this
right. It was like, okay, they use the hacksaw. Yeah, it was a little long.
And kind of pointless. I mean, pointless in the sense that we didn't need it to be a whole segment of an episode.
Yeah. I also feel like that cannot be the only person he's murdered. I don't think he has murdered only one person.
I might have some answers.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, we can move on to Tilly then. I didn't catch ever before, and I was like, did I just miss it, or did we really not get it revealed until now? But I never caught that Lyle was not Kenny's bio dad.
They did not. It was very much intentionally buried.
At first, so that episode. Yeah, when that man came out, I was like, but who that man? Hopper, who this man?
I did the same thing. I was like, where's Lyle?
I was like, why isn't Lyle playing his younger self? And then it got clearer, and I was like, oh, this is not supposed to be his younger self. This is somebody else completely. And then they say Kenny Jr., and I was like,
she had a whole first marriage. Oh no. Oh no.
Right. So then when Lyle showed up, I was like, oh, there he is. And that's why he is not surprised when he hears the rumors. It might not be that it has happened before at Dannemora, but he knows it's happened before because he was the other person.
And here's additionally, while I struggled a bit, I wish I had watched episode 6 when we recorded parts 1 through 4, because
you already knew
everything about Tilly to me at that point. I was just like, oh, I hate her.
I hate her.
I hate her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's the worst. And I was like, this woman's a sociopath. This woman's a narcissist.
Oh,
this woman deserves to be in that prison with these other two because, oh my gosh.
And the abuse that poor Kenny Jr. has taken, just verbal abuse. I'm willing to bet there was physical abuse too.
Okay. So one of my initial concerns, because when they started that intro scene and they are trying to get Kenny Jr. off to daycare with the dude,
he does not want to.
He doesn't want to go, and he is ardently fighting. And I was like, are we going to find out that Kenny Jr. has been getting like
abused at the daycare?
I thought that was going to be the big thing.
Yeah.
And that maybe led to their marriage dissolving, and then that's how she got with Lyle. That never ended up coming to fruition. So I was like, okay, I guess maybe he was just one of those kids that just don't want to leave their parents. Fine.
Right.
But for a minute, I was kind of like, oh, wait.
Right.
Is this man abusing this child? If so, I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, that ended up, at least that wasn't part of the story. That did happen. We don't know, but it wasn't narratively part of it. So once got past that and realized, oh no, wait, she's banging it out with Lyle once again at work at the same job you have with your husband.
Yeah, again, you and your husband work at the same place. I don't understand.
I don't understand it at all. It is the weirdest thing to me. And again, this is what speaks to like the sociopathy of it all. Because it's like, you do not care about who you are intruding upon, whose feelings you're hurting, as long as you get what you want.
Right.
So much so that you're willing to do it right in front of the person.
And she's, she's a con artist too, because she knows. Those people know, like, okay, if I turn on the tears,
what the line is.
Somebody's gonna be on my side.
Mm-hmm. Her part of this whole episode was the only part I really had any investment in, because
me too.
It just explained Tilly so much more, because you're seeing her hooking up with prisoners, and we've seen the tears and how she manipulates her emotional states and all that stuff. But it's just like, what is this woman's deal? And then when you see this is her whole MO. This is how she has gotten by in life. This is how she has gotten everything that she has, and it's not like she has a lot, but she definitely emotionally manipulates every situation she's in. And the way she did her husband dirty, I just was like,
Terrible.
I don't care for you. I don't feel sorry for you, and I don't care.
Set him up for the court to know that, like, okay, well, he's been violent, so give me full custody, but then also have the nerve to stand in his face and be like, he's gonna have a good life, he's gonna blah blah blah. Y'all work at the same place I did. What do you mean? How he gonna have more than what he got right now? And he didn't. And then to turn around and lie to that boy's face and say, your dad doesn't love you anymore. He decided that he doesn't want you. You're never going to see him again.
Not to mention, I don't think it was just a matter of custody. I think he surrendered his parental rights.
Like everything, all of it.
And I'm just like, you got this man. And this dude was the first thing that happened after he finds out that his wife is cheating. It's like, my concern is my son.
Yeah.
I'm not letting my son stay around a person like you. And again, not just because you cheated, but because you're clearly a sociopath.
Crazy.
And the argument that they have at the job, it's happened before. Because he said, I can't believe you're doing this to me again. So he knows she's a terrible person. He's like, I'm not letting my son be around this. You're not getting our kid.
Yeah.
And then she manipulates the whole situation so that she can win. And it's not even, I don't even know that she cares about her son so much as winning. The argument, the situation, whatever.
Right.
And that's the worst part. It's like, you used your kid to basically malign your husband and ruin his reputation and get him fired from his job and take his child, and he no longer has paternity over his own kid. And that was the only thing he cared about at the end of this. You ruined this man's life.
Well,
and you just walked away like, oh, he'll be well taken care of. It's all fine. It's good.
It's, the same reason, I feel like the same reason she, wanted full custody, wanted complete and total rights, is probably the same reason that she's still with Lyle, is that she knows who she can manipulate, right?
Very true.
Far easier to manipulate a child, right? And so I'm going to keep him because he's going to be on my side in future things. Lyle is a dummy. We're going to keep him because he's going to still be on my side. And we see that later on, that he has stuck by her side through all of this. Yeah, she's a piece of work. I also think from a storytelling perspective, this third leg of the episode was the best pacing too.
Yes. But again, because it actually had somewhere to go narratively.
Right.
The other two was just a lot of faffing around. Like, it didn't measure up in the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it was the last one because it made it worth sitting through the other two. But yeah, outside of that, the other two didn't. The weight wasn't there in terms of what's making the character. Yeah, that's that. Mm-hmm. It was upsetting to me. It made me very angry. It also made me more angry at Lyle for being so willingly blind to all the stuff happening with Tilly, with the prisoners. Homie, I hate that. I hate when people who were a part of cheating to get to their relationship, they want to act like there's no possible way that it could happen.
Yes. What? What? How did you get here, sir?
And it wasn't even like y'all just cheated one time and, we got swept up. You was banging this girl daily.
But also,
regularly.
Also, Lyle was also married to somebody else.
So true.
So
what happened to her?
Part of it too is also, I can't be a hypocrite.
Yeah, you're right. Ugh. It's like, because then when you see later how he's just come hell or high water, like, I'm going to stand beside her. I'm going to stand beside her. That's my man. I'm going to stand beside, has that whole mentality. It's like, but why? Is it the guilt? It must be the guilt. It has to be the guilt of the fact that you both ruined lives to get to your relationship. So if we let this relationship go, what was it for?
If Kenny wasn't a whole ass adult, I'd be like, maybe it's for Kenny. But he's grown. He gone.
I think it's the guilt. It has to be, because again, they ruined that man's life, and who knows what they did to his wife to get her out of the picture. And it has to be like, we have to hold this up, or
it has to be that, but I'm also still, that's not enough.
No,
right?
it's not.
Where it's like,
no,
on top of everything else, it's not like she acts in any way that she loves you. Like, she's
not at all. She's mean.
So,
and again, I wonder if he tolerates that because it's like, well, this is punishment for me because I did horrible things to someone.
Atonement.
So I'm just going to let this woman step on my face every day for the rest of my life to atone for, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me why any of this continues. Anyway, all right, that's part 6.
All right, yeah, that's part 6. Okay. Episode 7, part 7, 1, 1. It's with the, when I saw that it was with a comma and not like a dash, or I don't, even the punctuation is bothering me. I don't, okay, this is a dead horse. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. So we open on sprawling forested mountains, and there's distant sounds of a helicopter, and there's birds overhead. And Sweat and Matt climb up a steep slope, and they're trying to stay hidden. And Matt's foot gets stuck in a branch as they scramble for cover beneath a helicopter. You see across the screen, it's day 1.
Mm-hmm.
So the helicopter lands at Dannemora, and it's carrying the governor, who has come to oversee the investigation himself. And he's led through the prison and down to their cells and the tunnels and the steam pipe to check everything out. And he questions the warden. I keep confusing. That's the superintendent. See,
I think so.
Reset is the person who is on
the superintendent, and I think yes, I think he's the one that would always make the calls out to who that other.
Okay, and then I think I was just saying warden because I say warden in other things, but okay, we don't know who that other person is. Okay, so anyway, it's Reset who's in the tunnel. He questions him about, like, when was this last inspected? And he's like, oh, it's supposed to be daily, but I'll check the logs. Ain't nobody been checking. Because, like, remember, it took like months for Sweat to get through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile, in Watertown, New York, we are reintroduced to Inspector General Catherine Leahy Scott, and she is tracking a man who is committing workers' comp fraud. Mm-hmm. And that's, we established in the first episode that that's the kind of things that she looks into in her job. And then she gets a call from the governor himself to head over to Dannemora.
Mm-hmm.
So then we cut back to the hospital, and Tilly has been cleared to leave, but she doesn't want to be discharged right now. She doesn't want to leave. And so Lyle shows up as she has already packed her things and gotten dressed to go. He's coming to visit, and she's like, I'm leaving. And they change course, right? And they rush out. They get to the car. And on the ride home, Tilly's phone is like blowing up with notifications, and Lyle is commenting on, oh, there's whirlybirds up there, and there's lots of cops going, and he clearly has not seen any news for the day. And then Tilly makes sure that it stays that way, because just as a breaking news report is going to come on the radio, she turns it off. And so when they arrive home, an unmarked police car pulls into the driveway, and a detective gets out and starts asking them questions and lets them know there was an escape. And do you guys know Sweat and Matt? And they admit that they know them, but Tilly is keeping her story tight. She denies that she noticed anything suspicious about them in the days leading up, and the detective asks whether the inmates might know where they live and advises them to keep their doors locked. These are very dangerous men, right? Just in case. And so at the prison, the governor updates Inspector General Scott that no one had checked the escape route at all, and suggests that there may be inside help. And that's, that's why she's there, because she's like internal affairs. There you go. Yeah. That's the word. And then we go back to Tilly and Lyle's, and it looks like they're having almost a news watching party. And this is with C.O. Lambert. So it's Tilly and Lyle and Kenny, and then Lambert's family there. And they have a little bit of discussion about the situation, and Lyle pulls Tilly aside and says, I think we need to tell the detective about the painting. And he's like, for fingerprints, and like, damn it, Lyle, they're in prison. They already got their fingerprints, and she's just like, basically, she's calling him stupid for suggesting it, and she blows up at him, and she storms off. And then as the governor is giving a press conference on the news, we overhear that, and they're warning about these escapees being highly dangerous. Call if you know anything, blah, 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 blah. And we see that Matt and Sweat are continuing their journey through the woods. So that night, Sweat gets his bearings, and he can see, like, based on where the lake and the prison are, like, okay, Canada is 25 miles that way. And he's getting that organized and trying to make their plan of action for the next day. Meanwhile, Matt is just like, Tilly, I'm gonna kill her, blah, 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 I'm gonna chop her up into pieces. He's like fantasizing about killing her. So then it then jumps to day 5 of the escape. And so the men wake up in the woods, they break down their camp, they cover their tracks. You can see that at this point, Sweat has probably got it down to a routine, and they press on. And Tilly and Lyle, they're still glued to the news. And I had a question about this later. I will come back to it. But then they decide they need to go grocery shopping. And when they are grocery shopping, they run into the detective that came to their house. And Tilly decides that she is going to approach him and tell him something that's going on. And he very smartly is like, I feel like I need to give you your Miranda rights. So he Mirandizes her, just in case. And then she relays the story about the painting that Matt had made up and told Lyle. So she doesn't tell him the truth, but she says, I got a painting I gave him a picture of my dogs so he can paint it for my husband's anniversary. And there was nothing else, right? And then the detective, very intuitively sees that there's probably more to the story and more that she needs to tell, and encourages her to like call him, come forward and speak to her if there's anything else she remembers. So then back at home, Tilly then unpacks her suitcase and starts throwing away all the new clothes and the bathing suits and stuff that she bought from Mexico.
No more Mexico.
Right. And then we cut to see that C.O. Palmer is also getting rid of evidence, and he's burning all of the paintings that he's gotten from Matt, and probably the one from Sweat. I think one of them was one from Sweat too. And then we cut back to the woods, and Sweat and Matt come across a cabin, and Sweat wants to bypass it, but Matt ignores him, as we see is a pattern, and goes in and finds that it is empty. So they go in and they load up on supplies. They get food. There's bug spray and different clothes. This is the most important part. So they're able to change out of their clothes, and they're in like fatigues and camouflage now. But then there's also a cabinet of booze, and Matt makes sure to get all the liquor, and Sweat is not too happy about it. But then we go back to Inspector General Scott, and she interviews Palmer about the whole meat scheme with the hacksaw, and he tells her everything. Was like, I don't know why. I didn't question why. She just told me to do it. I told her she shouldn't be doing it. Next time, go through me. And they have a little confrontation about like, it still would have been wrong if you did it too, you dummy. We then see Scott in her office with the deputy inspector general, and they are going over statements. So apparently by that time, Tilly has made 4 separate statements. She has talked to the detectives 4 separate times, and she kind of questions like, how have they been able to talk so much? And the guy's just like, she just keeps coming in. I guess every time she remembers, quote, something new, she talks to them. So that evening, Tilly is finally arrested. They have enough. And Lyle is still clueless, still like, what are you talking about? We've given them enough. Haven't you given them enough? So then we return to that same interview that we heard during episode 1. So we don't get the whole thing again. So as the voiceover of what we've already heard goes on, we see search teams entering the forest, and Sweat and Matt reach a creek, and then Sweat smells the water and warns Matt that it's unsafe to drink, but he doesn't care. He gulps it down. He's telling him, you're gonna get sick. He gulps it down. He fills up a water bottle full of it to take with him anyway. So then we cut to day 15. Surprise, surprise, Matt is sick. He's running. He got a doo-doo. He's sick. He got a and they come across yet another cabin. He bursts through the window so that he could take in the bathroom. He doesn't even check if there's anybody there, but luckily there's nobody in this cabin either. And then they hold up there that night, and there's a satellite TV, and they begin binge watching the news, and they learn all about Tilly's arrest. They are getting backstory. They're watching the backstory reports about them, and then we learn that it is actually Sweat's 35th birthday then. And then after watching TV for a while, Sweat heads into the bathroom and finds that the toilet is clogged from Matt's earlier emergency. And they have an argue about it because Sweat is like, that's DNA evidence. What are you doing? Like, you can't just leave that there. Anyway, it results in Sweat is going to clean it because he's like, not going to just leave it on principle. He doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't want a trail leading to him. So he goes in there to clean. And as he's cleaning, he finds on the shelf above the toilet, there is a handgun that is loaded. He keeps it. Smart. And then Matt comes to the door with 2 shots poured to give him a birthday shot. He forces him to take a birthday shot because Sweat wants to keep his wits about him. He doesn't want to be drinking, but he takes a shot with him. And that is the end of 7 part 1.
Y'all.
Okay, I think the earlier question I had when it's early on, we cut to day 5. So I was like, okay, day 1. I don't know if they're counting. I guess they're counting the full day, right? So day 1 is the Saturday. So day 5 is later in the week. And I was like, why do they lay it up in bed? Did they tell certain people not to come to work? Because it's not like they can just be like, oh, we're closed down, don't come to work, because there's still prisoners there. They still need COs. I guess Tilly's not needed. And then that made me realize we don't know what Lyle's job was at the prison. He wasn't a CO.
No.
He never had that same uniform. Did you learn anywhere what Lyle's job actually was there?
No, not that I can recall.
Okay.
Part of me feels like maybe they mentioned it when he was having one of those like bar conversations with Lambert.
Okay.
But I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And I don't know if he said exactly what he said. I feel like maybe he just talked about what he was doing.
I wonder if maybe it's something similar. So they were, because I was like, it's like a Wednesday or Thursday right now. Why are they at home and not at work? So they must have been like, they just didn't ask non-essential people to come back. Like only COs were going to work.
I'm going to assume probably because there was a prison break, they had a lockdown situation where maybe it was like, nobody's going to jobs. Nobody's going, you going to yourself.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, so Lyle must have like one of those, not a CO job.
Right. Yes. That's going to be my guess. Yeah. He also never wore a uniform. So it had to be something like what Tilly does.
I wonder if he was a janitor, because what was his job at the shoe factory? It looked like he was pushing a cart with a broom.
I remember him, though, he was like doing some loading when Tilly came. Remember when they drove up and he was in the background and he was like loading something?
Okay, yeah.
So maybe shipping or maybe.
Yeah, maybe he has a job like that.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But clearly, they shut the prison down and said, ain't nobody doing nothing until we figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So. This whole episode was just me being like, ditch Matt, ditch Matt.
Yes.
Ditch
He's slowing you
Matt.
down. This man is getting stone around your neck. They almost got caught by the helicopter on day 1 because he wouldn't just leave his boot. Like, I
was like, he is unequipped, unconditioned.
Not only that, he's so conceited.
Yes.
That he refuses to admit that they are in an area that is in Sweat's wheelhouse.
And not
like
his.
You are not an outdoorsman. Clearly this man is.
Nope.
Like, he's trying to protect both of you and get you both to freedom.
And he's too arrogant to acknowledge.
Yeah.
That someone would know better than
he does. Everything that he advises him to do, he's like, no, that.
What became evident to me, besides his arrogance, is that once they got out of prison, he was no longer, not in his comfort zone, but also he was no longer the boss.
Nope.
He had prison on lock, right?
Yeah.
I've been here long enough to have the respect of everybody. People come to me when they need something. I'm the person who has all the answers. I'm in lockstep with the COs. And once they got outside and he realized, I have no domain here. I have no knowledge here. And that Sweat was the one he had to defer to.
Right.
I feel like he just could not let himself surrender to someone else's authority. And that's what messed things up on his end. And I was just like, does not respect you, Sweat. He is not listening. The minute he took that sip of water, I was like, ditch him. Because he's about to have botulism.
Right.
In 2 seconds. And again, it's going to slow you down. You have to stay in pace with this dude. And I know you could league step him if you wanted to. Like, get rid of him.
Yeah, we'll get to the stat they get at the end where I was like, oh, you really should have left him.
Yeah. It just was so frustrating. And again, it was like, dude, just humble yourself. Did you not want to escape? Do you not want to be free? Right. You're holding yourself back now at this point. You can't blame nobody else.
Back to the lockdown thing. It was like, I think this is all talk. He didn't think he was actually going to go through with this plan. Mm-hmm. And he's, again, too arrogant to actually admit, like, actually, I'm too scared to do this, but you go without me.
Yep.
But so then he's just going to, like, sabotage all along the way where, like, well, if I'm going to get caught because I can't, I'm going to make sure I keep you down and you get caught too.
Yep. It was so frustrating. And honestly, when there were several steps along the way where I would have been like, man, F this. But the minute he went into that bathroom, blew it up, and then was like, you clean it up, I would have been like, bet. have fun dying of your own filth and flatulence. I'm out. There's no way in God's green earth I am cleaning up anything. I'm like, and like you said, you made a good point, which I didn't think of, which is the DNA side of it is like, I don't want to get caught, so I do have to do this because I don't want to get caught.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would have been enough for me. I would have been like, cool, well,
right, whatever. You gonna get caught, I'm gonna be long gone.
Right. As soon as he went to sleep that night, I would have been like, shh, pack up my stuff. Bye. I'm gone. And before you even realize I'm gone, because you're still sick.
Let's be real. He wouldn't have even needed to give himself a head start because that man couldn't keep up with him.
That's true. That's true. I'm like, you got a gun, you got your wits. I would have been out. And I was kind of wondering as we ended this, like with the shot and stuff, like, is he gonna in the middle of the night just be like,
yeah, me too. I thought I was like, you better go.
I wanted him to be, I wanted him to be so bad. Did I have any?
Oh, you were saying how many people do?
Okay, yeah. Because when they started asking all these questions at the prison, I was like, how many people got fired?
Right.
Throughout all this.
When they were having like the news watching party, Lambert said like, oh man, I feel bad because they're gonna blame Reset for this and he's gonna get fired because I guess he was a newer one and he was like, he was actually trying to clean the place up and I was like, was he? Because there was no inspections. There were no inspections. Like even if like, he said they were supposed to be daily. Even if you were so far behind that you were doing it once a month, you would have caught that there was a plan.
Because like you said, it's been going on for months. But it's also the degree to which you're inspecting. Because the first thing that Matt caught on to was that they don't move their beds.
Yes.
And the beds are right up against them the grates. So it's like, y'all never once, like maybe you don't do it daily, but weekly or monthly, do a bed check.
Right. They never once pulled out the bed and even so. Yeah, they wouldn't have even had to inspect the tunnels.
No. As soon as they did a bed check, it would have been like, oh, people, y'all sawing into grates? Oh, that's what we're doing in here?
Right. I will say, though, the cover-up that they had was smart because every night when, I don't think we talked about this detail.
No.
In the episode where they set the cell on fire to get that inmate out so that Sweat can move back next door to Matt, they make the inmates repaint it. So they give them the cell color paint.
Mm-hmm.
And then they keep that paint.
That's true.
That every night they put new tape over it and then tape.
That is true.
So that by just a glance, a surface inspection is not going to stand out that there's anything happening there.
True. Very true. That is a good point. Yeah. But even still, it's the fact that at no point.
But yeah, again, that toolbox where they got the tools, the big sledgehammer to use was locked at first, right? And the first time they go down into the tunnels, Matt wants to open it immediately and Sweat is like, wait, we don't know who that belongs to, who it is, right? So there's not even maintenance people going regularly that are opening that to like, oh, I need a wrench for something, or oh, I need it. Like nothing is being done, right? So no inspections, no maintenance, and nothing is happening because at some point somebody should have walked down there, even if their intention wasn't to check for things that were off, like regular upkeep. Somebody should have been down there.
And the moment they talked about the budget, when they did have that lockdown in episode 5, and they were like, they're not going to send people from whatever the other prison is because of overtime, they're not going to approve it. Yeah. Like, so that's why nobody gives a shit, because they're not paying them for anything anyway. So they're like, whatever, we're going to half-ass our job and do the bare minimum. Now,
that's why you have people drinking on job. When Palmer pulled out that flask, I said,
Palmer made so many missteps. And like, we talked about this, like, is he a nice guy? Is he not? I mean, with Ricky, he seems to have a soft spot. But it's like, at no point did you feel like, I gotta, just for appearance sake, kind of give you a hard time so people don't, like, or be a little less lenient so people don't think that I'm whatever.
I mean, when we see the scene of him burning all the paintings and you realize how much it was, and I was like, I think I assumed, again, just because of like the prison docs I watch and stuff, that or the prison dramas, because you don't see any of this in the documentaries. You know, they don't catch dirty COs in the documentaries. But I assumed that their relationship was because of Matt's status. But then I was like, I don't think he would have been nice to him if he wasn't a painter. I think he really is just an art lover.
I think you're right. I really do. Because, yeah, he had a bunch of them paintings, a collection. And, yeah, so I had to wonder, because once they started asking questions and realizing at how many different points people weren't doing their job, starting with homeboy who does security for the people that work there, and how he's not really scanning them.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, when homegirl comes in and she's like,
she's doing all the checks, right? And she's like, a hacksaw came through here.
She was like, oh, you want to check my phone? She's like, okay, I'll play your little reindeer games.
Right.
Sure. Okay, go ahead and check me. You haven't been checking nobody for the last however many months, but sure, take my phone.
Ridiculous. You got some nerve. Yeah, I bet. He lost his job. Yep. Reset lost his job. Yep. Palmer lost his job. A bunch of people had to have lost their job. Yeah,
you'd have to do a whole trade out of prison guards. Right. Nobody did what they were supposed to do. The only other thing was just that I got tired of seeing him piss and moan about Tilly not showing up. You put all your eggs in that Tilly basket. You're a fool. You're a fool for doing so. What made you think that you could guarantee, like, again, that's the arrogance, right? He thought he had her so cock-locked on him, right? Like, I got her dick down. Like, she's in the zone and I can get her to do whatever I want. No, what guarantee of that do you have? None
right,
guarantee.
And that arrogance showed earlier when he said that she was a little nervous and Sweat was like, what can I do? Maybe I can talk to her. No, like all the while up until that point, he made a point to bring up repeatedly that Sweat was the one she wanted. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to do this to keep her thinking that y'all are going to be together after for it to work. And then when he finally was like, this is the time where I need to play that card right at the end to make sure, he was like, no, I got it. Right. Because it was a blow to his ego. Like it was something he couldn't handle. So he didn't let him do that. But Sweat probably could have convinced her.
I think so. Especially if he got a moment with her right before the day ended, like he's been doing with their little note passing. I think he may have been able to secure her enough to get her to go through with it.
Right.
And again, because of his ego and his arrogance, it's like, do you really want to be out of here? Because you should have checked that ego at the door and been like, sure, do what you got to do to make sure that we're gone. Let's double our efforts. Let's work together. Right. He just could not let Sweat have the upper hand at any opportunity. Could you imagine how upset he would have been if he realized that Sweat did take off the night he first broke out and just left him behind?
I'm like, Sweat, you should have laughed. You should. I was like, all of this. Anyway.
All right. Anything else for part 1 of part 7 of episode 7?
No. Okay. Let's do episode 8, part 7, part 2.
All right. So next morning, Sweat is cleaning up the cabin when he notices that Matt has found a rifle, so he's got a gun too. And Sweat shows him the handgun that he found the night before, and Matt decides he wants to head to the road and hijack a car to get to Canada because he's tired of hiking because, surprise, surprise, he can't hang. So a man arrives on an ATV with his dog at the cabin, and he quickly signals, the dog signals, that someone is inside the cabin. So then the man draws his weapon and starts calling for whoever's inside to come out. But by the time he enters, Matt and Sweat have already bolted out the back and into the woods. Meanwhile, Lyle and Kenny read tabloid stories about Tilly, where she belongs. Kenny's biological father has gone to the press, revealing past details about Kenny and Tilly's relationship. Kenny visits Tilly in jail and shares that they weren't able to make bail for her. He tells her that Lyle doesn't believe the stories and is standing by her. And then Kenny asks directly if the rumors are true. I'm glad he did.
Yeah, I'm like, we don't get an answer to that.
Sure don't. We cut back to Matt and Sweat continuing their escape. While Sweat works to dispose of more evidence, Matt drunkenly rambles about how there was this one time he ran away from a foster home on a horse and spent a week in the woods. Those days are long gone. He claims he knew Tilly wouldn't show up, her micro expressions. He's doing all this self-reflection all of a sudden. Sweat is clearly frustrated by Matt's careless behavior and his drinking and the fact that he's undermining all his efforts to keep them both safe. And it is now day 20. So they come up to a road where police cars parked and the officers appear to be making a phone call. Sweat and Matt hide just down the hill. Matt wants to ambush the officers with his rifle like an idiot, but Sweat says hell no and runs the opposite way. Finally, hightails it. Before Matt can make a move, because he's just creeping and focused, the officers drive off. Matt searches for Sweat, but can't find him because he's gone.
Ooh, no, I'm not staying around to see if
he didn't even look
not.
back. He did one of those runs where it's like, you won't have to catch me. So good for him. Sweat keeps running. Matt is drunkenly wandering around in the woods until he stumbles across a trailer. He throws an empty bottle at it to see if anyone's inside and doesn't get a response. So he goes inside and sketches a horse on the wall by the light of a lighter.
It's like, what the hell is this?
A car drives up, but nothing happens. And I guess he just goes to sleep or passes out, one of the two. The next morning, Matt heads back to the road and spots a truck with a camper. He has his rifle, he shoots out a tire, and when the driver gets out, Matt fires at the man, but it jams, and so he misses. And of course, that alerts the driver something ain't right, and he gets back in his car and speeds off. Matt returns to the trailer and hears another vehicle nearby, and he steps outside. He then hears a radio chirp and sees flashing lights in the distance, and the jig is up. So he realizes that his capture is imminent as more sheriff and police officers and state troopers begin to swarm the area. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection helicopter also arrives on the scene, as well as a tactical team, BORTAC?
I forgot to look up what that was. I wrote it down because I was like, huh.
Okay, we'll find out.
I've never seen that.
BORTAC enters the forest. They eventually find...
Oh, Border Tactical. It just hit me. There you go.
All right. So they enter the forest, and they eventually find Matt. He tries to fire his weapon because he ain't going out like a sucker, except he is. But he gets shot right in the head, sight unseen, killed on the spot. So that night, Sweat discovers what looks like an abandoned ranger's tower, and he takes out a handheld radio and hears the news that Matt has been killed by law enforcement who were pursuing him on foot. He sees flashing red lights in the distance and is a little freaked out by them, but he eventually lies down to get out of sight and appears to accept his fate because he doesn't know what the lights are all about. Mm-hmm. By morning, Sweat wakes up and is surprised to still be alive. He realizes that the flashing lights came from the wind turbines that were on a nearby farm. And it's now day 23. Sweat can feel the freedom. He can feel the breeze from Canada. As he walks across a clearing, a lone cop is on patrol, but that cop does see him and stops him. Once the officer realizes who he is, man. Anyway, he gives chase, and Sweat tries to run it out. He's heading for the border, come hell or high water, but homeboy shoots him in the back. He wounds him, but does not fatally kill him. So later at the hospital, we see that IG Scott is visiting Sweat, and she praises him for his ingenuity. Mm-hmm. He opens up and shares more details about his escape. She asks the most important question that we all want to know. Why didn't he just escape on his own the night he first made it out? So then we jump ahead to November. Lyle is visiting Tilly, and he looks noticeably worse for the wear. He tells her he knew about the affair. He confronts her about the danger she put them in. And Tilly says she didn't go through with the plan because she still loves him.
God.
Oh, so she asks if he's going to wait for her, but he doesn't answer. As Tilly is escorted back to her cell, she asks a corrections officer to listen to the statement and that she wants to give the judge because she needs to give a statement of contrition. And the officer obliges, listening to her, but clearly don't care. And then later on decides to offer her an invitation to a little party that he holds with a new inmate.
And in a party. And I was like, the cycle begins again. Mm-hmm. That's where the episode ends. Besides the update.
So, and that's pretty much where it fades out. So then we get the following end of show updates on each of these characters. Joyce Mitchell pled guilty to a felony count of promotion of prison contraband, but she didn't confess to nothing else. At her first hearing, the parole board denied her release, concluding it would be incompatible with the welfare of society. Smart. Gene Palmer pleaded guilty to promoting contraband and official misconduct, maintaining he has no knowledge of the plan to break out. After serving 4 months of a 6-month sentence, he was he changed his name and left town. Lyle Mitchell still lives near Malone. Lyle Mitchell still lives near Malone, and he is waiting to welcome Tilly back to their home after she is released from prison. He visits her regularly, never mind. David Sweat was transferred to Wendy Correctional Facility near Buffalo, New York. He remains under 24-hour surveillance in solitary confinement. Richard Matt's body was claimed by his children. Before the escape, he sent his daughter several pieces of art, and they actually show some of those pieces.
Some of the art,
and there were some good pieces.
There were some good pieces, and there were some things that made like recreations of actual things made it into the show. Like the Hillary Clinton one was in his.
But the one that he did, I think, was better than the one they put in the show. I was like, that one looks really nice.
Yeah, they were good. And then the last one was a kitten holding a little like badge that said, "I'm sorry," a little cute kitten. So I guess he sent that to his daughters before the escape. Like, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I had to. Oh, do you think maybe the note was for them? No.
No, that doesn't make sense.
All right. Well, whatever. Yeah, because he did put it on a piece of art, but no, it doesn't. That doesn't check out. It doesn't make sense. That note's weird. All right. Okay. So that's the end of the series, the end of episode 8, part 7, comma 2.
Yes.
And this is where we land. I was glad that Sweat finally did what he needed to do and
he ran. I was like, oh my God, finally.
And it was, that scene was wild too, right? Because the whole impetus was that Ricky wanted to shoot a cop, and that triggered him so hard that he was like, not again.
Right.
And he said, I ain't going back for being a cop killer.
And it was like, even if you're going to like concede to him as far as, okay, fine, well, you can hijack a car, whatever. I don't want any more people involved. I don't want any more victims, but let's hijack a car. Not a cop car.
Most conspicuous option.
You idiot.
Oh my gosh. Everything about that was just dumb. And again, I'm glad that was the wake up call. I wish he had realized it sooner and hightailed it sooner, but whatever, it's fine. He got out of there. And again, he did the run. Yeah. He didn't even look back to see if Matt was there.
He was like, and he was ditching and dodging.
Yep. And it's crazy too, because again, he must have a really good sense of the land or the map to know which way to head in to get out of his way, but still be going in the direction he needs to get to Canada. But I felt so bad when he got to the border and you could see it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's
is
Canada
he gonna make
over there? Nope.
Is he gonna make it? No,
and that's where I was like, no, stop, Kali, because we don't want him to make it.
Right, and that's where you have to check yourself. It's like, wait, no, we don't
right. You're rooting for him by this point because
he worked
for it so hard, and Matt didn't deserve it, but you're like, he deserves it, but you're like, no, he doesn't deserve it.
But on the basis of effort given to get the reward, he deserves to get the reward. Matt shouldn't have been able to ride the coattails of his by any means.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why you're like, okay, but he did so much, and man, he was so smart, and you almost want to reward that because it's like the ingenuity, the foresight, all the planning. But also, no, you're a criminal. You shouldn't get to do that.
As soon as Matt turned around and he was gone, I was like, oh, this is the end for him because he doesn't know where he's supposed to go.
Oh, I knew he was dead. As soon as he shrunk back, I was like, oh, he's dead. I was like, either them cops is about to shoot you right now,
right,
or you're going to die in the woods.
Right.
But either way, you're not getting past this point.
Right. Mm-mm. Yeah. I was like, oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't even know how to find North right now.
No. And again, it's like your options are, again, get shot by a cop now, get shot by a cop later. Die of starvation, die of dysentery, die there's so many ways for you to die. An animal, every possible way that you can die in the woods. That man was going to meet one of those ends. There was no pass go collect $200 for Rick.
Yeah, because all you have been consuming at this point is every once in a while they got their hands on some food because of the cabins, but it's just liquor and liquor. And that water and more liquor.
Maybe that doo-doo water was a little liquor-like. He was like, oh.
You know what? Maybe the only reason why it didn't kill him is some of the liquor killed all the germs that were in there.
It's like, oh, we got some of that botulism, but not all of it.
There's a little left.
But okay, let's also talk about how fortunate they were. I didn't realize so many people just set up cabins and trailers isolated in the woods that they just leave there until they decide they want to come back.
Yeah, that's where like the Unabombers go.
I guess, but I just didn't expect there to be so many that they'd run across. Now, granted, I know they've covered like stretches and stretches of land, but I'm just like, wow, they're lucky there's this many abandoned cabins just hanging out in the woods with fully stocked with supplies and such.
Yeah. And like the first one really looked truly abandoned. I think that's why there was not that much stuff there.
And they didn't hang there long.
But the second one, I don't think was abandoned. No, I think that man had just left for the day and was coming back the next day.
I think the last two, because that was when he was saying like, dude, people come up to their cabins on Thursdays.
Yeah, it was the Thursdays. We can't
stop being so obvious.
And again, another sign that Sweat knows what he's talking about. Right. And so it could have been like the only reason why they were able to get into that first one is because it was early in the week. People are working. But like now it's weekend time. People who hunt come to their cabins regularly. They're going to be here. Yeah, because he rode up and even the dog was just running with him. So that means he wasn't coming from far either because the dog didn't ride.
Yeah, because he just took an ATV from an ATV. He probably parked his car at the trailer park or wherever and rode his ATV.
Yeah, or even lives nearby.
That's also true. And that dog was a hound dog. I was like, oh, y'all are definitely caught. Oh, yeah, he's on to your scent. He said, hold on.
Immediately, he was like,
who's in my house? Who's in my house? Arf, arf. Yeah. So I'm surprised they didn't get caught then.
Inspector General Scott asking the important question. It was interesting because at first when she asked it, I was like, he's like, you got out the night before, and he almost forgot that he did that. And she was like, why? And, dry run. I was like, oh, that's interesting. How did they know that he did a dry run? Mm-hmm. What evidence was there to show that it had happened more than once? I don't know. I'm curious about that.
I mean, unless, again, it was just based off of the testimony they got. Or
from who?
I don't know.
Right? Unless he had already been interviewed before she did another interview.
Well, wasn't she talking to Tilly before?
Yeah, but Tilly doesn't know that.
Well, no, didn't they tell her, like, we've been out and we're going to go tomorrow? Or did they not do a little
He said, tonight's the night. And when he had her go stand out there in the episode before, he didn't tell her why. He just said, that's the spot. So she doesn't know that it's been tested and that he made it out and came back.
Unless there's cameras. The only thing I can think of, there's some kind of log where they maybe saw.
Yeah, I was just like, that's interesting. How do they know that? But then, obviously, the important question, why didn't you just go? And so when she says that, he says, you guys went 21 miles in 21 days. And then you went an additional 18 miles in those last 2 days. I said, I knew he was slowing you down, but damn. I knew he was slowing him down because when in part 7-1, when he says, okay, there's Dannemora, there's Lake so-and-so, so Canada's 25 miles that way. I was like, okay, 25 miles. I was like, that's not that. I was like, okay, that's not bad. Like 25 miles hiking is obviously very different than like just walking in a neighborhood 25 miles. But I was like, they could probably do 2-3 miles a day. So I was thinking 7 days max. When they jumped to day 5, I was like, they didn't say how close they were. Okay. And then the next jump was all the way to day 15. I said, wait a minute.
Were y'all there for 10 days?
What's happening? He's really slowing you down. So yeah, I was like, and it was funny because his reaction to that was like, oh dang, I was booking it. Like, oh.
And again, the fact that he didn't even clock it, but just had the determination to know, if I push myself, if I have my strategies in place, I can get there. And he had to notice just the lack of burden.
Yeah.
In that time. He may not have known exactly how much he was covering or how far he was trekking, but he had to realize, like, man, I'm getting further than I have gotten because I can just focus. Like, it's just me. I don't have to worry about whatever the hell Ricky's doing. And he could have made it. And that's the thing that's wild is, given the fact that it took them that long to find them, he could have made it.
Yeah, she was like, you easily would have been in Canada. You would have been in Canada for days before we even realized.
Right. And it's crazy because I'm like, if he had gotten there, if he hadn't been like so urgently rushing those last 2 days, he probably would have seen the border, made a plan for how they're going to get over. He probably would have done it at night where it's less conspicuous, and he would have been a Canadian.
Yeah. Ooh, especially because also in the previous episode, when they're watching the news story in that cabin, they say that they are searching for them in the forests of Vermont. Now, I don't know if that was like a ploy on the news, like a decoy, or if they really genuinely were going in the wrong direction.
Because I had that same thought too, and I think that they did put it out there to try to
make them feel too comfortable.
Exactly. Like, oh, they aren't even in our direction.
Yeah.
I definitely think that was a scheme, because I'm like, oh, they have to be smart enough to think that they either have radio access or some kind of news access. So they're probably hoping that they can fish them out by making them think they're in a totally different area.
Yeah.
I think that was intentional. Yeah, for sure. Everything else is Tilly related, and y'all already know how I feel.
Yeah.
I think she got what she deserved. I think Lyle's an idiot for waiting.
Lyle is an idiot.
But I also wonder if Lyle's just like, I mean, what else is out there for me?
Right. And we still, like we said, we mentioned in our first episode of this that the real Tilly, maintains that there were no sexual relations with those inmates. So whether or not Lyle believes that or not, he must on some level want to believe it if he's still waiting for her. I don't know. He's dummy. Yeah. He's a dummy. She's a dummy. They're all dummies. I can't believe Sweat is in.
I can't believe it.
Like solitary 24 hours. Now, I'm like, that man gonna go crazy.
It sucks because, like, what other alternative is there? This is a person who broke out of prison.
Right.
He's smart enough to do it, so you can't just leave him in Gen Pop.
Right.
He can't just be out.
Yeah.
So it's like, dang, this is worse. Because now you're just by yourself all the time, in a box. Yeah. All the time, under constant surveillance.
Yeah, we know that makes people crazy. We know.
Yeah. Oh, terrible. All right. So, guys, y'all want to hear about more about what's
Patricia
going on?
Patricia Arquette was good casting.
Right? Did you see her?
Yeah. I was like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, she got it. She got it spot on. All right. So these were the things that I was going to put at the top of the doc.
He said, you look like the Hamburglar.
She did. So here's some updates from when this happened in 2015 and even since then, because we got a little bit at the end. But it's been some years even since Ben Stiller made this. So it says in 2015, Mitchell pled guilty and was sentenced to up to 7 years for first-degree promoting prison contraband, plus another year to be served concurrently for fourth-degree criminal facilitation. She was also fined $6,375 and later ordered to pay nearly $80,000 in restitution. Today, she is free.
What?
She served her time. She was paroled from Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, New York's only max security prison for women, in February of 2020. She served nearly 4.5 years behind bars. And at the time of release, locals in the region were not very happy about her getting early release. They didn't want her. She was previously denied parole, as we saw, on 3 occasions, twice in 2017 and once in 2019.
How did she get that many parole hearings? Because I feel like typically once you get denied parole, it's really hard to get in front of them again.
Maybe they felt bad for her.
Lord, she was manipulating somebody again.
You don't understand what they're doing to me in here. Oh, anyway, we already know essentially what she did. Apparently, not only did she smuggle in the hacksaw blades, but drill bits were part of the hamburger meat package, the first one. She also, as we saw, gave them other devices to reach the manhole. It says on here that Matt did tell her that after a couple of days, he and Sweat had cut holes and were going down into the pipes. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I was already bringing stuff to him and I felt like I couldn't really stop. So I just had to keep giving them what they wanted. So here's the deal with Sweat. He was a convicted burglar already with a track record before the cop thing. This went back to when he was a teenager up through 22. So at 22 was when he and his accomplices took part in stealing guns from a Pennsylvania fireworks store near the New York state border early in the morning. And that's when the officer Tarsha stumbled upon them. And that's when the shooting happened.
So, yeah. See, we could have had them being like, oh, let's steal some fireworks for the 4th of July aside. Like, what?
Yeah.
I just was like, why are they in a parking lot?
I don't know. Anyway. So it says that Sweat and another man fired more than a dozen shots at the deputy. He initially survived, but then Sweat got into his Honda, ran him over, and dragged his body. And Tarsha was still alive. And that's when Sweat's accomplice got out and shot him twice in the face.
Okay. Sweat, you're a murderer.
Yeah. So this is the part about Richard Matt that was interesting. So he was serving his sentence, 25 to life, for the 2017 murder of his 76-year-old employer, William Rickerson. We already know that part. All right. He did that murder. Cut him up, threw him in the river, right? Then he fled to Mexico, where he killed another man by stabbing him to death at a bar. And then he was jailed in Mexico for the second murder and then was extradited back to the U.S. in 2007. Yeah. And that's when he got convicted.
See, I said there ain't no way this man has murdered only one person.
Yeah, and he's probably murdered people
before that
just didn't get caught. Exactly. Yeah. So here's the thing that's interesting. All the stuff that's on record about Joyce and any sexual things, it all happens with Matt. Nothing is documented about Sweat. Other than the fact that Sweat, there were rumors and Sweat got fired from the tailoring office. Okay. So she never confesses to doing anything with him, but she does confess with Matt, which I find interesting. So she admits to having a flirtation with Matt, but that he forced her to perform oral sex on him.
That's when she was like, "Oh, Matt trying to get me."
But she did confess that she did like the attention she was getting from these men. She said their attention made me feel good. And this was in an interview with Today. And she said, everybody tells me that I'm way too nice. I'm just too nice a girl. So we already know where everybody is now. Death, solitary confinement, yada, yada. That was that article. And then I feel like there was, so the other article I found had to do with the previous marriage. Because I just was like, wait, do we know for sure that this whole thing happened with the affair or did it not? And apparently, yes, it did. It is, it's not just alleged. There are, confessions to this, but they changed the name. So the husband's name wasn't Kenny, it was Toby and Toby Jr. Okay. So I guess for their own, whatever, they changed it for the show. Maybe Kenny or Toby didn't consent to being named. So whatever. Don't know what the reasons are, but they changed the name just for those two. Yeah. So when all of this was coming out about Tilly and the escape and that's when Toby, actually it was Toby's now ex-wife, because he remarried after Joyce. Okay. But apparently he was so effed up from that relationship that their relationship didn't work out so well. But she said that he would talk often about what she did to him. So they get statements. This is People magazine. They get statements from coworkers that worked with them that are corroborating like the hookups with her and Lyle. And apparently her and Lyle knew each other from high school. Okay. So that was the other thing. They hooked up a lot in high school. Yeah. And apparently Toby and Lyle have had this thing for a while. But initially she went with Lyle. And then at a certain point, she decides she wants to go be with Toby, and then they get married. And I think they got married right out of high school.
F this lady.
Yeah. So they got married young, they had a kid, and then she's still fooling around with Lyle, and it's a whole thing. So not only was she working at that factory, this is clearly like one of those towns where everybody works at the factory. Mm-hmm. Her mom worked there. Her mom was one of the foremen at the factory. Her brother and sister worked at the plant at different points in time.
Effing people at the plant.
With your whole family.
Everybody worked there.
With your whole family. Lord. Primo, what's her name? They mentioned her name earlier, but her last name is Primo. She's the ex-wife of Toby. Anyway, I don't know. The general gist is that she's basically asserting like he was messed up. She messed him up. She's not a good person. The son and I think the original father have like restored their relationship, or at least restored like are talking to each other now or have a relationship again. But that the wake of the damage of the initial tryst did a number on him and thus did a number on their relationship. And she does not have nice things to say about Joyce. So, and rightfully so. That's pretty much that article. So I wanted to find out more of the where are they now, because I was like, I always like to know how much is inflated for the story and for the narrative and how much is rooted in reality. And apparently a good amount is very much rooted in reality. So.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But that's that, guys. That's Escape at Dannemora. We did it.
We did it.
What are your thoughts, Kali? How do you feel about this show series, limited series?
This is what I had mentioned to Rodnesha earlier that last night I started Good American Family. It's based on a true story. It's another crazy crime. Mm-hmm. Not the same type of story at all if you're familiar with it, but
a true crimey type of thing.
When I got to the end of the first episode, I said, that's what it is. So I am used to Netflix and some Hulu things, but definitely Netflix has it's successful based on a true story and also crime documentaries have landed on this very, I think, at least for me, this very successful formula where it's tell you a story from this perspective, tell you a story from this perspective, get you thinking one thing, boop, cliffhanger. Maybe it's not what it seems. Now we're going to tell you from another perspective. True. And I said, boom, there it is. I didn't get any cliffhangers really good until they were already escaped. True. And so it goes back to what we were saying, where it just took too long to get to the actual escape. It could have been, I think this could have been a very successful, like a very, I would not say successful, it was successful. Right. A very more, much more compelling, much more entertaining for me personally, 4-parter than 8 episodes.
I agree. I think 4 parts would have been solid. I think they could have condensed it down and still told a good story. Not that anything in the first 4 parts was wholly unnecessary, but it was just overly inflated by a lot. And I think you could have brought it down and narrowed it down to the 4 people, right, that we're looking at. Yeah. We didn't, I mean, not that the prison stuff didn't matter, but we didn't need so much of it. We didn't need so many trips to the tailor shop 9, tailor room 9. We didn't need every little side conversation with these other prisoners that we aren't even going to spend the rest of the time with.
And things you got like little threads here and there that were never finished off. So why do I care about Matt and the whole exchange with Angel? No. Right? Okay, we see that he's his lackey and doing stuff for him. But ultimately but it doesn't matter why. Like if they had just, Angel had only been in there to clean up the cell when Matt told him to, we don't need to know why people are listening to Matt. We know that Matt runs things.
I was going to say, Angel could literally just shown up when he wanted someone to blow up that room and we would have just understood, oh, that's one of his lackeys.
So like all of that was a major through line in the first episode that didn't need to be there.
Nope. It didn't lead to nothing. I even thought maybe like, oh, maybe he's grooming Angel to be the one that kind of takes his spot when he hightails it. But no, we didn't see none of that. I was like, okay, we're seeing the people that we're seeing because they help them get out in some way. Nope. No. And again, we're telling not a prisoner story, we're telling a prison escape story. So all the prison-y stuff
wasn't needed.
Yeah. Ultimately. Right. The only thing you needed was maybe the murder dynamic.
Right, because again, that threatens the escape again.
Right. All these other extraneous characters didn't need them. And Reggie, while funny, didn't need him.
And I would say with the murder stuff too, I don't think really any part of his particular storyline was too long, except for the fact that you said we didn't need every single shop scene. So we didn't need multiple scenes of Tilly and Murder not getting along. One was enough, and then Matt saying, I'll get rid of him for you is enough.
He could have had one to show, to establish like he steps in his role, Tilly ain't trying to help him be there, and he's just like, F it. And then one later to show he's still checked out, and like you said, and causing problems for the potential escape, so they have to deal with them. But outside of that, nothing. And even like the Scary Gary stuff didn't go anywhere other than, again, being an interference for Sweat getting in and out of his space, or nothing. They could have trimmed a lot of that fat.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was like, I'm with you. If a series, 4-part series, or it could have just been a good 2-hour movie where they really just dialed in on the events leading to the escape and the escape.
Yeah.
Our opinion.
Yeah. But with that said, part 7, 1 and 2 are much better than the rest, in my opinion. Like it was like, okay, cool. We wrapped it up. I don't end this feeling like, God, I didn't need this. But yeah.
There were just a lot of side tangent-y things that didn't do anything other than reinforce what we already know about the characters. Like all the Lyle stuff, it's like, we get who Lyle is.
Right.
We get it. We got it on the first conversation with him and Lambert, right?
Yeah.
We get it. We didn't need all the reinforcement of Palmer's character. We get him. We know what kind of guy he is. We get it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff that's like hat on a hat. It's like, we've already established, we've already shown it. We get it. Let's move on. When are we getting out of here?
Right. Yeah. Let's
escape Dannemora.
Let's cut to the chase.
So ultimately, it was fine. It won't be a rewatch for me.
No, it will not. But for the purposes of the UUR pod, it is fun to see like the beginning of Ben Stiller and Jessica Lee Gagne's working relationship, and like you said, how like, oh, we can see the seeds of different things that they tried out on this that they have refined and do so well on Severance.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
It was interesting. There's a lot of style things that you notice, a lot of camera POVs that you're like, oh, they clearly like these little singular close. Man, I don't know if it's Jessica Lee Gagne or Ben Stiller. It has to be Ben Stiller. Him love a close up.
love a close up.
and sometimes an overstayed welcome of a close up, right? It's like, okay. But I think that's a choice. I think he likes the uncomfortability that it produces, and that's fine. Yeah. But we did it kind of a lot in this one, and I think he's fine-tuned it more in Severance when it happens. It's more intentional. Right. So that's fine. You know, again, we build on the blocks, right? Yeah, I mean, it's also way different to hold a close up on a character you don't care about versus characters you care about, right? Like they may care about the characters in Severance. True. I could not care less. But also, you know, to their credit, like they didn't write these characters; they're based on real people. That's also true. That's also true. They may have embellished them or added side ones, but like that's me not feeling any sort of like, you know, redeeming qualities in Matt is not their fault. That's Matt. That's just how that person was. Yeah. So yeah. And at the end of the day, I think they did the job of like, not that they were trying to make these characters endearing or understanding. Yeah. I think they held up a mirror to exactly who they are. And maybe they leaned into Sweat a little more to be like, this guy, I don't know if he's redeemable, but you get him. Yeah. You get him. There's something here in the fact that he is really intelligent. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're almost like, oh man, this guy's life could have gone another way had it not been for X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah. And then there's Tilly, who just is a garbage human being. And then there's Tilly. I can't believe she's out. I'd be mad if I lived in that town too. Oh, I think that was the other thing I missed. Did I say that she went back to Lyle? Her and Lyle are still together? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So whatevs. Anyway. So thanks again for hanging with us in between floors and this off season. We have more coming to you that we're excited about. We are continuing with this kind of bi-weekly schedule for a while. And then who knows what happens after we have what's on our list, but it'll take us a while to get through our list. So, but anyway, if you have more ideas for episodes that you would like to suggest for us in this off time, or if you have any questions, comments, whatever, you just want to join the conversation, you can follow us on all of our socials or at the UUR pod. We're on Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, Lemon8, YouTube too. I realized I haven't been saying YouTube. I just never updated it. The paper, whatever. We're on YouTube also. Yeah. And you can also email us at the UURpod@gmail.com. You can also support our endeavors here by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/the UURpod. And you can join as a free member and get little thingies. And you can also join, go through the thing. You can also join the Severed Floor and get extended video cuts of the episode, bonus episodes, early releases to things, and whatever else we could think of. Give us suggestions too. Thank you for all the patrons we already do have. We are grateful that you are here. And please rate, review, subscribe on wherever you listen to the pod. Wherever that may be. Yeah. And tell us what you guys think. If you've seen Escape at Dannemora, yes, if you know the story. Yeah. I saw some articles of people who like lived up in that area when that was going on. If anybody's listening, maybe lived near that upstate New York area or knew about it or heard about it, I would love to hear what that was like. Yeah, I've never lived close enough to escape convict situations that I'm aware of. I wouldn't leave the house. That's crazy. But yeah, so, or just let us know how you felt about the show. Yeah. Well, everybody, thanks for listening in. This has been the UUR, and remember, you almost made it to Canada.